Welcome to the McEnulty Method. Let me start over, because we're just doing that today.
Yeah.
Welcome to the McEnulty Method, where we are joining financial expert Frank McEnulty and Colin Sorrells for help with our financial lives. We have a special guest today. Jeanette Castillo is here, and she has a question for our experts. Jeanette?
Yes, so my question is, for my 401k, I have two options. I have the classic option everybody has, but I also have a Roth option, and I want to know which one's better for myself and the future.
Okay. Well, first, let's make sure people understand what we're talking about. There is a Roth 401k versus a regular 401k. And the difference is, same as with a Roth IRA and a regular IRA, with a Roth 401k, you're paying with after-tax dollars into the account. Whereas with a regular 401k, it's before tax dollars. So it's a slight difference. Now, if you're in the beginning of your career, you're probably not at the maximum tax bracket. So the benefit of paying with after-tax dollars is not as great. But the big difference is with a Roth 401k, when you get to the end, all of the money that comes out is tax-free. Whereas with a regular 401k, all of the money that comes out is going to be taxed as ordinary income. So young people should always put it into the Roth. You're not losing that much in the tax advantage, and you're making up a tremendous amount in being able to pull it out tax-free at the end.
All right. Colin, you have anything to say about this? Or is this all good news to you?
I agree. The Roth is always, because of the way you talked about the tax benefit of it. What I didn't know was interesting is that it was actually after tax dollars. I thought both options were before tax. So that's an interesting, I guess to you, Frank, what is sort of the line where putting in after tax dollars, and yes, you're going to get it tax free at the end, is not a big enough benefit compared to getting to put pre-tax dollars?
Well, to me, a lot of times it's not even a numbers thing. It's think about this. If you were to put, say you bought a stock today for $100 a share, and you bought it into a Roth, or you bought it into a regular retirement account. Okay, that stock is the new Tesla. It goes to $1,000 a share. Now all of a sudden you're getting ready to retire. It's like, oh, I can take this out tax-free. Into a regular retirement account, you're going to pay ordinary income on that money, even though the vast majority should be long-term capital gains. So they actually really get you, because you could have stocks you've owned for 30 years and all of a sudden, like, wait, it's ordinary income, but it's sat in this stock for 30 years. So it's always better, unless you're, if you start getting into the 30, 35% tax bracket and you're 10, 15 years away from retirement, then the numbers start to change. But until then, the Roths are better.
All right. Jeanette, any other questions about this IRA stuff?
No, I mean, it makes more sense to have to be Roth and instead of the original type of way, the original 401k, especially now that, I mean, I still live with my parents, so.
Here's the most important question. Does your company match your 401k contributions to any extent?
It does at like after 4%, but it's not a great amount. It's probably like, I think it said it was like after a year of working here, we match up to 4% of your, oh no, like 20%, no, not 20%. Something up to 4% of what you've made so
Right.
far.
Well, lot of times the way they operate is they'll match up to a certain percentage of your wages that you contribute. So I have a feeling their plan is if you put in 4% of your money, they're going to match that 4%. So the number one rule is you put in as much as they will match. Because if you put in 4% and they may put in 4%, you just made 100% on your money that you put into your account because they've matched it. So that is like the rule. No matter how much you need the money, no matter, put in whatever they match.
Right.
Get all the benefit from them you can.
And I guess my other question was like, I personally, I feel like I can't read my website that they use because we use Principal as our company. But when I go in there and I try to read, I'm not even sure what I'm invested to.
That's the next step. And that is the only real drawback of 401ks, plans like that, because usually the company, since there's some weird liability laws with the companies and that, and what they can offer and what they can't. So a lot of times they don't offer the full range of potential investments. They really want to offer very safe, conservative investments. Now, that's not a bad thing because you may work for these people forever. You may not. The good news is if you're not, you can take it with you. You can move it into your own personal account and invest it in anything down the road. But you're absolutely right. They can't, for some reason, they can't bring it upon themselves to write these things so that a normal person can read them, where it says, hey, put in 4%, we'll match 4%. Here's an example. You make $1,000 a week. 4% is $40 a week. You put in 40, we put in 40. End of story. I don't know why people can't do that, but there's lawyers involved, and it's all those good things.
Well, as Shakespeare said, the first thing we must do is to kill all the lawyers.
Yes. But as any lawyer will tell you, he didn't mean it that way. But it was so they could get away with crimes because the lawyers would turn them in. But, I'd be happy to look at that with you one day, Jeanette, just to, we could get on Zoom and walk through it and see what it has to say. Because it is very important you take advantage of this. As we've talked many times on our YouTube channel here, time is your friend.
Right.
You have 40 years to have this money increase in value. You don't want it to be 39, you don't want it to be 38, or in Bill's, in my case, you don't want it to be an hour and a half. But you want it to be 40 years to get the maximum return on this. So happy to do this for you in the near future.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Well, that was pretty nice, pretty cut and dried. It was good advice, and frankly, I'm learning something too. Welcome to the McEnulty Method, where we are joining financial experts Frank McEnulty and Colin Sorrells with our questions about how we can handle our money. We've got a special guest this week. It is Jeanette Castillo. Jeanette, thanks for coming back, and I can't wait to hear your question. Why don't you go ahead and ask Frank and Colin what is on your mind?
My question is, how do I set up my W-4 form so I can not pay Uncle Sam at the end of the year?
Well, first question I have for you is, do you know how it's set up now?
I have, when they ask you, I have one.
Okay.
Single.
So single one. If you want to pretty much make sure you don't pay at the end of the year, you want to be single zero. And I know.
So put zero.
Put zero. Now, there's two schools of thought. I like getting money back at the end of the year. I think, you don't want to get a whole bunch back because you're giving a free loan to the government. But I would rather get a few $100 back than owe them $1. Just
exactly.
And you probably feel the same way, right? You don't, it just pains you to pay that money at the end of the year.
Yes.
But, and really the least amount you can claim is single zero.
Okay.
That means you're not even claiming yourself as a deduction. So that's pretty much it. You know, as you move forward, most people, you know, if you ever buy a piece of property, then you start calculating, okay, how much is the interest expense going to be that I can deduct? And then you start increasing your deductions if you want. But, you know, look, you're not earning any money having money in the bank anyways. Right. So why not treat it as a little savings account, a little spring surprise that you're going to get back $100, $200. Who cares?
Will it affect it if, like, let's say, like, when it comes to having a bonus once or twice a year, and you decide to go to exempt, like, that pay period, will it really throw it off completely?
Well, that's where you're going to owe money, because you're not going to take any taxes out on that, right? Okay, well, here's the problem. That's not taxed. That gets added on to all of your income.
Oh, okay.
So it gets taxed at your highest marginal rate. Now, granted, you know, 15, 20, wherever it is, but still, that's guaranteeing you're going to owe money at the end of the year.
Oh, okay. So I think that's the biggest mistake people make. I feel like they like, I'll go exempt this paycheck and it won't affect me, but.
Right. They're going to get their money. So, you know, if you want to get a little back at the end of the year, let them tax it throughout the year. As we've talked many times, is it easier to pay a little every week or month, or pay it all at once at the end of the year? You know, it's less painful to me. Colin, what do you think?
What I like about it is, you know, you talk about getting that couple hundred back, or maybe it's 1,000 in spring. It keeps you from spending that every week because it's already gone, and then you get that back, and you can maybe, when you get it all back at once, say, oh, it's a good snapshot of, people don't think $10 here, $20 here, $30 here adds up to something. When you get it all back at once, you're like, you know what, this is actually something sizable enough I could invest it and maybe get something in return.
Yeah, or it's your vacation fund, you know, however you want, but right. That's an excellent point, Colin. I hadn't thought about that. You can't spend it if the government took it. And they're just holding it for you because they're givers like that. And anything else, Jeanette?
No, I mean, that was just my biggest thing, how to not pay at the end of the year.
Okay, so are you saving any money any other ways?
My company does. You could set it up and between 1%, 3%, or 5%. They deduct that percentage from your check, every check up until November, and then they give it back to you, and they match you up to $500. I set it up at the highest that we could at 5%. So then in November, when it comes around, I could get that back. It's like my own personal little savings within the company.
That's a great idea. You've hit on the absolute best way to save. Never see it.
Yes.
Right. It's just
$500 for Christmas.
No, she gets 1,000 for Christmas because it's 500 of hers plus 500 of the company's money. Even better. But yeah, that's the perfect way to save. You never touch it. Once you touch it, it's like, I don't want to let go of it. You never see it.
Yeah, I think that's the best way, because saving otherwise, it's like, I do have where my bank deducts a certain amount and then transfers it over, but I have access to put it back.
Right.
So that is like the hardest, is not transferring it back. But
right.
If I have but since I have this
Tempting to
one,
spend.
All right. Well, Jeanette, thank you for joining us. This was, it's a darn good question. And I think we've all learned a little something. Colin, Frank, thank you once again for sharing your expertise.
Oh, it's great. And Jeanette, like I said, if you want to get together, we can Zoom and share that. We'll go through it. And if you come up with more questions in the future, you know where to find us.
yes, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been very informative.
No, I'm glad you got a hold of me.
All right. And thank you, viewer, for joining all of us. And we will see you next time on the McEnulty Method.